They laughed first, not the cute kind of laugh either, the sharp one, the kind that cuts just deep enough to make you doubt yourself. They leaned back, crossed their arms, and said it like it was a law of nature, "Don't do it." As if the world runs on their permission, as if your limits were something they got to vote on. Funny thing about people like that, they don't whisper doubt, they announce it, loud, confident, smiling. They want you to hear it echo in your head long after they're gone. You know what's really amusing? The first time you did it, they called it luck, a mistake, a fluke. They said, "Yeah, but try that again," so you did. Same stage, same pressure, same eyes watching, waiting for you to fall apart so they could feel right. Because nothing comforts people more than being proven right about your failure. And when you did it twice, that's when the room got quiet. That's when the laughter changed. Because once is an accident, but twice is a pattern, and patterns terrify people who built their lives on excuses. They didn't say don't do it anymore, not out loud. They just stared, wondering when you stopped asking for approval and started writing your own rules, wondering how someone they underestimated learned to enjoy the sound of doubt cracking under pressure. They laughed before they listened. And that's always the tell. People don't laugh because something is funny, they laugh because it makes them uncomfortable, because if they really listened, they might have to admit you're serious, and that's dangerous. Listening requires respect, and respect messes with the little boxes they put people in. So they laugh early, loud, exaggerated, like it's a performance. Like if they laugh first, they don't have to think later. It's a defense mechanism dressed up as confidence. You see, laughter is cheap. It costs nothing. It's easier than curiosity, easier than empathy, easier than admitting they don't actually know how the story ends. When they laugh before they listen, they're saying, "I've already decided who you are." They've written your character without reading the script. And in their version, you're not the one who surprises anyone. You're the background noise, the punchline, the example of what not to try. That laugh is a shortcut, a way to stay comfortable without engaging with reality. What's funny is how predictable it is. You say you're going to do something that stretches past their imagination, and the laugh comes right on cue. A little shake of the head, maybe a smirk, maybe someone nudges the person next to them like they're sharing a joke. And the joke is you. They don't ask questions. They don't lean in. They lean back. Because leaning back feels safe. Listening might require them to confront their own inaction, their own abandoned ideas, the things they once wanted to try but decided were too risky, too hard, too embarrassing. That laugh is loaded. It carries all their fears, all their regrets, all the things they didn't do wrapped up in one sound. It says, "I tried once and failed," or "I never even tried," or "if I admit you might succeed, I have to explain why I didn't." So instead of dealing with that mess, they laugh. It's cleaner. It keeps the hierarchy intact. You stay small, they stay comfortable. But here's the part they never consider. When you laugh at someone before you listen, you stop seeing them as human. You turn them into a caricature. And when you do that, you underestimate them. You miss the details, the discipline, the obsession, the quiet hours nobody saw, the stubborn refusal to quit when quitting would have been socially acceptable. You miss the fact that some people don't need applause to keep going. Some people run on spite, on curiosity, on that itch that won't go away no matter how many laughs it hears. And the laugh, it sticks, it echoes, not as discouragement, but as fuel. Because once you've been laughed at, truly laughed at, something changes. You stop performing for approval. You stop seeking validation from the very people who showed you they never planned to give it. The laugh frees you. It burns away the illusion that support was ever guaranteed. It sharpens things. It clarifies who's watching and who's actually listening. They don't notice the shift when it happens. They think the laugh landed, that it did its job. They go home feeling clever, feeling secure. Meanwhile, you're replaying that sound, not with shame, but with precision. You remember who laughed, how quickly they dismissed you, and every step forward after that carries the memory of that moment, not as bitterness, but as a reminder of what you're up against. Because the truth is, people who laugh before they listen are never prepared for the aftermath. They're prepared for failure, for excuses, for apologies. They're not prepared for follow-through. They're not prepared for results. And when results show up, the laughter doesn't fit anymore. It gets awkward. It dries up. Suddenly they want context, explanations, conversations they skipped at the beginning. Suddenly they're listening. But now it's too late to pretend they always believed. And you can always tell, because the laughter never comes back the same way. It turns nervous, forced, uncertain. They laugh again, but this time it's not about you. It's about them trying to process how wrong they were, how easily they dismissed something real, how quickly they chose comfort over understanding. Doubt sounds confident when it's scared, and that's the trick nobody warns you about. Fear doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it clears its throat, stands up straight, and speaks like it owns the room. It borrows certainty, puts on a well-pressed suit, and tells you exactly why something won't work. Not maybe, not possibly, won't. That's how you know it's afraid. Real confidence doesn't need to shout rules. It doesn't need to rush to conclusions. Fear does. Fear needs to lock the doors before curiosity starts wandering around. Listen closely to doubt, and you'll hear how rehearsed it is. It has statistics ready, anecdotes lined up, other people's failures memorized like scripture. It talks fast so you don't interrupt it with your own thoughts. It frames itself as wisdom, as experience, as realism. I'm just being honest, it says, which is funny because honesty usually leaves room for uncertainty. Doubt leaves no room. It slams the table and calls it logic. That confidence isn't strength, it's panic pretending to be authority. The people who deliver doubt with the most confidence are often the ones who tried once and stopped. They learned just enough pain to be afraid of repetition, and now they want to save you from it. Or maybe they want to save themselves from watching you go further than they did. So they speak with conviction, they warn you, they shake their heads like seasoned veterans of disappointment. And the more certain they sound, the less likely it is that they actually know the outcome. Certainty is cheaper than courage. What makes it dangerous is how convincing it feels in the moment. Confidence has gravity. It pulls attention toward it. When someone speaks with that tone, that trust me voice, your nervous system relaxes. You think, maybe they've already done the thinking for me. Maybe this is just how things are. Doubt loves that moment. That's when it wins without a fight. You didn't fail. You didn't even try. You just nodded and called it maturity. But fear always leaks. It can't help itself. Beneath the confident delivery, there's urgency, a need to shut the conversation down quickly, to move on, to not explore alternatives. Because alternatives mean possibility, and possibility means the story isn't finished yet. Doubt hates unfinished stories. It wants closure, even if that closure is disappointment, especially if that closure is disappointment, because disappointment feels familiar and familiarity feels safe. You'll notice how doubt reacts when you ask one simple question, why? Not aggressively, just calmly. Why can't this work? Why is this a bad idea? Why not try? The confident tone wobbles. The answers get vague. They circle back to the same warnings, the same examples, the same outcomes. Because doubt isn't built on evidence, it's built on anticipation of pain. It's a prediction machine tuned only to worst-case scenarios, dressed up as common sense. And here's the part nobody likes to admit. Doubt feels responsible. It feels adult. It feels like the voice of reason in a room full of reckless dreamers. That's why it's allowed to speak so loudly, Society rewards caution. It applauds restraint. It calls fear intelligence as long as it's articulated well. So doubt learns to speak clearly, firmly, persuasively. It learns to smile while it pulls the brakes. But confidence born from fear always overplays its hand. It tries to control outcomes instead of engaging with them. It says, "Don't do it," not because it knows what will happen, but because it can't tolerate not knowing. It would rather be right about failure than curious about success. It would rather maintain its worldview than risk being surprised. And surprise is the enemy of fear. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That sharp, authoritative doubt isn't wisdom, it's a shield. It's someone protecting a fragile belief system from being challenged by action. And the moment you act, truly act, that confidence evaporates. Because action introduces variables doubt can't manage. It introduces reality. And reality doesn't care how convincing the warning sounded. That's when the voice changes. The same people who were so certain before suddenly hedge. They say things like, "Well, I didn't mean it like that," or "I just didn't want you to get hurt." The confidence dissolves into concern because the fear has shifted. It's no longer afraid of you failing. It's afraid of you succeeding. Afraid of what that success says about their certainty, their caution, their reasons for staying still. Doubt will always try to sound confident first. It hopes you mistake volume for truth, certainty for insight, fear for foresight. It hopes you never notice that real confidence doesn't need to scare you into obedience, doesn't need to rush you into retreat, doesn't need to pretend the future is already decided when it hasn't even started unfolding. Yet "don't do it" sounds like a wall, but it's really a doorway with bad lighting. People say it like a command, like they're protecting you from something sharp, something fatal, something irreversible. They lower their voice, add concern to the tone, maybe even pretend it's for your own good. But listen carefully and you'll hear what they're actually saying. They're not talking about you, they're talking about themselves, about what they couldn't handle, about what scared them into staying put. When someone tells you "don't do it," they assume authority they were never given. They speak as if experience automatically grants ownership over outcomes, as if because they imagined failure vividly enough, it became inevitable. But here's the quiet joke in all of this. Advice like that only works on people who are already asking for permission. The moment you stop asking, the sentence changes meaning. "Don't do it" stops being a warning and starts sounding like a challenge. See, prohibition creates focus. The brain zooms in on the forbidden thing. You weren't even sure you wanted it until someone told you not to touch it, not to try it, not to step there. Suddenly the outline sharpens, the idea gains weight, the risk feels real, and real things are interesting. Safe things are boring. Safe things don't grow teeth and bite back. Safe things don't reveal anything about who you are under pressure. People underestimate how revealing that phrase is. "Don't do it" often means, "I didn't do it," or worse, "I wanted to, and I didn't have the nerve." There's resentment hiding in there, wearing the mask of concern. Because if you go ahead and do the thing, and you survive, and maybe even succeed, then their restraint stops looking wise and starts looking like fear. And fear hates being exposed. What they never tell you is that permission doesn't come from approval. It comes from defiance. The world doesn't hand you a signed document saying you're allowed to become something more than expected. It hands you resistance. It hands you raised eyebrows, sarcasm, soft discouragement wrapped in polite language. That's the test. If you mistake resistance for a stop sign, you stay where you are. If you recognize it as friction, you learn how to push. "Don't do it" also assumes a fragile version of you. A you that can't recover. A you that breaks permanently from one wrong move. But people who say that rarely ask a better question: what happens if you don't do it? What happens when the curiosity rots into regret? When the idea doesn't go away, just gets quieter and heavier? Nobody warns you about that damage. It's invisible, so it's socially acceptable. Failing loudly is embarrassing. Failing silently is praised as maturity. And here's the part that makes it almost funny. The same people who warned you not to do it will later say, they always knew you could. They'll rewrite their own dialogue. They'll soften the edges. They'll claim support they never gave. Because once you act, the permission retroactively appears. Suddenly the risk wasn't that crazy. Suddenly it makes sense. Success has a way of laundering doubt into encouragement. But before that happens, you stand alone with the decision. And in that moment, don't do it becomes incredibly useful. It strips away illusion. It tells you exactly where the edge is, exactly where comfort ends, exactly where other people stopped. And if you're paying attention, you realize no one is actually stopping you. There's no gate, no guard, just a sentence floating in the air waiting for you to obey it. Disobedience doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to announce itself. Sometimes it's quiet, methodical, almost polite. You nod, you smile, you listen, and then you do it anyway. Not out of spite, not out of rebellion for its own sake, but because something inside you refuses to outsource your future to someone else's fear. That's when don't do it completes its transformation. It stops being a warning and becomes confirmation. Because if it truly wasn't worth doing, no one would bother trying to stop you. If it didn't threaten the existing order, it wouldn't attract resistance. The pushback is proof of impact. The discouragement is evidence that the action matters. And once you understand that, the phrase loses its power to paralyze and gains a new function. It marks the direction. It highlights the path that leads somewhere unfamiliar, somewhere unstable, somewhere honest. So the next time you hear it, don't rush to argue. Don't defend yourself. Don't explain your reasoning. Just notice how easily a few words tried to limit a future that hasn't happened yet. Notice how quickly fear dressed itself up as advice. And notice how simple the real decision is underneath all that noise, because permission was never something they could give you in the first place. First win gets dismissed as luck, and that's one of the cruelest jokes life plays. You do something difficult, something unexpected, something that strains the edges of possibility, and the first thing people say is, that was just luck. They wave it off, as if the effort never happened, as if the strategy, the timing, the sleepless nights, the obsession, the tiny calculations that added up, none of it mattered. Luck is an easy story to tell because it lets them feel safe. If it was luck, then it could never happen again. If it was luck, then no one really needs to understand it. Luck has no lessons, no patterns, no inconvenient truths about your capability. They underestimate the weight of being dismissed. They think it's harmless to call something accidental, to minimize achievement. But that first recognition of your success being treated like a fluke changes something in you. It sharpens your observation of people. It teaches you to see intention behind every smile, every comment, every pause. You start noticing the discomfort of the onlookers who can't quite reconcile their assumptions with what actually happened. Their minds twist in ways you never hear aloud, and that's the dangerous part. People are terrified when reality doesn't match their expectations. And the funny thing about luck is that it always carries an implicit condition. Don't try that again. Luck is fragile. Luck is rare. Luck is an anomaly. That's how they make the first success invisible. They frame it as a single point in time, unrelated to talent, preparation, or risk. They want to convince you that repetition is impossible, that effort will not yield the same result, that trying again is foolish. They are terrified of patterns. They fear proof. And when you start seeing patterns, when you notice that preparation, persistence often beat randomness, then their comfort starts to crumble. The first time you succeed, it's like a small rebellion. It's subtle, almost unnoticed if you're not paying attention. But people feel it immediately. They can't ignore it because success carries a vibration, a resonance that travels beyond what words can describe. And that vibration makes them uneasy. They weren't expecting it. They weren't ready to acknowledge it. So they grab onto the easiest explanation, luck. Luck erases the threat. Luck sanitizes reality. Luck allows them to go home and sleep peacefully, believing the world is still orderly, predictable, manageable. But here's what they don't see. Dismissing the first win doesn't weaken it. It doesn't erase the calculation, the focus, the resilience that made it happen. It doesn't shrink the hours spent in thought, the small, invisible sacrifices, the experimentation, the mistakes learned from. Those things accumulate quietly, invisibly, and they form the bedrock of every subsequent action. Luck is a story, skill is a reality, and skill compounds. Effort compounds, obsession compounds. Every person who said it was luck becomes irrelevant when the second attempt lands, when the repeat success materializes, when the pattern proves undeniable. The first win teaches you patience with the world. It teaches you how little credibility people grant to accomplishment. It teaches you to observe without needing validation. When they dismiss your success, you notice what they value, what they fear, and where their insecurities hide. Their applause, when it finally comes, is often delayed, awkward, or incomplete, because they need time to adjust to the reality that they misjudged. They misjudged the trajectory, the skill, the resolve, and misjudgment carries consequences. They didn't anticipate that you could internalize dismissal and turn it into motivation. And that's the subtle twist. The first win being called luck doesn't hurt you, it teaches you. It instructs you in the art of navigating human perception, in the ways people lie to themselves to maintain equilibrium, in the ways they try to rationalize things they cannot control. They don't see the lessons you're learning while they argue over semantics. They can't see the meticulous growth, the strategic observation, the quiet preparation that begins the moment the word luck leaves their lips. Luck, in their language, becomes an insult. In yours, it becomes a signal. The first win also exposes the fragility of expectation. People assume repetition is impossible because they measure everything by the norm of their own life, their own failures, their own avoidance of risk. They assume you're bounded by the same limits, by the same fears, by the same inability to endure scrutiny. But limits are just narratives until they're challenged. And when you push past them, when you repeat what they called luck, those narratives start to unravel. Their certainty falters. Their dismissive laughter falters. Their eyes widen, ever so slightly, and that is the moment they start paying attention, in a way they weren't prepared to do. The second win destroys their narrative, and that's when the fun really begins. The first time, they can laugh it off, shrug, call it luck, dismiss it like it was an accident. But the second time, the rules they tried to write for you start to crumble. That second success is louder than the first. It doesn't sneak in under their radar. It doesn't politely fit into the story they constructed about who you are and what you're capable of. It challenges the assumptions they made about reality itself, because one fluke can be explained away, but a pattern is something else entirely. Patterns make people uncomfortable. They're harder to ignore. They demand attention. You notice the change immediately. The same eyes that rolled the first time now linger. The same voices that mocked now falter. There's a pause in the conversation, a hiccup in the rhythm of their certainty. They're thinking, maybe even calculating, trying to rationalize it. But rationalizati only stretches so far. When you do it twice, you become the exception to the rules they thought were universal. And humans in general have a very hard time dealing with exceptions. They resist acknowledging them. Exceptions expose the weakness in their carefully constructed walls. The second success forces a confrontation with reality, a confrontation they were hoping to avoid. That's the beauty of repetition. It's not just proof of skill or effort. It's a mirror for those watching, a reflection they cannot deny. The second win whispers the truth about their assumptions. It doesn't scream, it simply exists. And that existence is unbearable for those who rely on dismissal as their armor. Suddenly their laughter seems hollow, their warnings empty, their criticism irrelevant. Because reality doesn't negotiate. Reality doesn't apologize for being inconvenient. It doesn't care about their narratives. And when you engage with reality, and reality sides with action, their comfort is shattered. There's also a subtle kind of justice in it. The people who warned you, who doubted you, who tried to write rules that didn't apply, they have to watch it unfold. They have to recognize it, even if silently, and that recognition comes with discomfort. They didn't anticipate that someone would take the first win as a lesson rather than a fluke. They didn't expect you to understand that repetition is not about luck, it's about persistence, observation, timing, and the willingness to endure scrutiny. And when they see it happen again, they realize the pattern is not coincidental, it is deliberate, it is inevitable when commitment and focus are applied consistently. The second success doesn't just challenge them externally, it challenges them internally. It forces them to confront their own limitations, their own failures, the moments when they played it safe, the times they stopped short. They remember the opportunities they ignored, the chances they let slip. And for a brief moment they feel that sting, that familiar twinge of regret. Watching someone else succeed where they hesitated exposes a vulnerability that most people hide behind denial. They act confident, but internally, the second success is a mirror they cannot break. They are confronted with their own inadequacy in the shadow of your persistence. It also teaches you something invaluable, that repetition is a kind of rebellion. The first time you succeed, it feels like proving a point. The second time, it feels like reclaiming a story. It feels like taking control of the narrative that others tried to impose on you. It's intoxicating because it reveals the fragility of authority based on fear or assumption. Authority built on hesitation or doubt collapses when faced with consistency, with dedication, with the willingness to show up again and again, despite the scoffs and the whispers. And the people who doubted, who laughed, who tried to contain you, they can no longer ignore it. They can no longer frame it as a one-time fluke. They can no longer pretend the rules apply equally. They have to acknowledge it, even if reluctantly. And in that acknowledgement lies a subtle shift of power. The second win doesn't just validate your actions, it destabilizes the structure they depended on to feel secure. That instability is delicious because it's invisible to them at first. It creeps in slowly, like a whisper they can't quite locate, until suddenly everything they assumed is questionable. The second win also solidifies something within you that no one can take away, Idence, not arrogance, not brashness, but a quiet, unshakable certainty that you are capable of navigating the world on your own terms. You've tested the boundaries and the boundaries have bent. You've seen what happens when persistence meets action. And you've seen the discomfort it causes in others, which is merely a reflection of the truth you already know. Nothing that truly matters is ever handed over politely. You take it, and in taking it, you rewrite the rules they tried to impose without permission. You ever notice how people only remember God when things go wrong? When life's all sunshine and roses? Oh, they don't have time for Him. Too busy, too distracted, too wrapped up in their own little world. But the second things go south, the moment the floor crumbles beneath them, boom! They're praying, they're pleading, they're making deals. Suddenly God's their best friend. Funny, isn't it? How people treat the one who never leaves them, like a last resort. Funny, isn't it? How people treat God like an emergency exit, like he's just standing there, waiting behind a glass case, only to be broken when there's a fire. The rest of the time, oh, they don't even look his way. Too busy, too caught up, too full of themselves. But the second life starts crumbling, the moment things don't go as planned, suddenly they remember. Suddenly they want to talk. Suddenly he matters. They spend their whole lives acting like they've got it all figured out, running from one thing to the next, chasing money, status, pleasure, whatever gives them that little rush, that little high. And for a while, sure, it works. They feel powerful, invincible even, like they don't need anyone, least of all God. They laugh at the idea, scoff at the people who pray, who trust, who believe. Why talk to someone who doesn't talk back, they say. But then, oh, then the storm hits, and isn't it just hilarious how quickly their tune changes? Now they're desperate. Now they're on their knees, hands shaking, voices trembling, begging for answers. Why me? Why now? What did I do to deserve this? Oh, and the bargaining begins. If you just fix this, I swear I'll change. I'll be better. I'll do anything. Like God's some kind of deal maker, some cosmic trader waiting to negotiate terms. But it's not about deals, is it? It's about trust. It's about where you run first, not where you crawl last. The irony is, they had the chance all along. Every single day, he was there, waiting, ready. But no, they needed to exhaust every other option first. They needed to ask every friend, read every self-help book, chase every hollow distraction before they finally turn to the only one who could actually help. And by the time they do, by the time they're willing to listen, they're already at rock bottom. Could have saved themselves the fall if they had just spoken to him first. People put their faith in everything but God. They trust their jobs, their relationships, their own ability to control things. They trust the world to give them security, happiness, peace. But the world is a liar. It gives just enough to keep you hooked, just enough to make you think it'll last. But it never does. The money runs out, the people leave, the plans fall apart, and when it does, where do they run? Back to the only one who never left in the first place. But here's the real punchline. They could have avoided all of it. The stress, the anxiety, the fear, the desperation, if only they had gone to him first. If only they had understood that before you chase answers from people who don't have them, you should talk to the one who does. Before you cry to the world, you should whisper to the one who created it. Before you trust in broken things, you should trust in the one thing that never breaks. But no, people like to do things the hard way. They like to run in circles, chase ghosts, try to fix things with their own two hands. And then, only when they've exhausted every other option, only when they have nowhere else to turn, do they remember. And isn't that just the funniest thing? They call it faith, but it's not faith, is it? It's desperation. Faith is when you go to him first, not when you've got no other choice. Faith is when you trust before you're forced to. But people don't learn. They keep making the same mistake over and over. They put their trust in things that can fail, then act surprised when they do. And God? Not because he enjoys the fall, not because he's punishing them, but because he knows. He knows they'll be back. They always come back. Because when the noise fades, when the distractions disappear, when the world shows its true colors, there's only one voice left that matters, the one that was there all along. Quick fixes. That's the game, isn't it? They want their problems solved, their pain numbed, their fears silenced, and they want it now. No patience, no waiting, just instant relief. And lucky for them, the world's got a whole menu of distractions to keep them busy. Money? Oh, that'll do the trick. For a while. Love? Sure, until it isn't enough. Success? Feels good until it doesn't. They chase these things like a dog chasing its own tail, round and round, faster and faster, thinking if they just grab hold of the right one, everything will be fine. But the problem is that the world doesn't offer solutions, it just offers distractions. They wake up feeling empty, but instead of asking why, they reach for something to fill the void. Maybe it's a drink, maybe it's a new toy, a new relationship, a new achievement to parade around. Look at me, look at what I've got. And for a moment, just a moment, it works. They feel something, a rush, a high, a sense of control. But it never lasts, because that feeling, it's not real, it's borrowed. And borrowed things, oh, they always have to be returned. So what happens next? The crash. That's the part nobody likes to talk about. The moment when the money doesn't buy happiness anymore. The moment when the compliments stop coming. The moment when the thing that used to make them feel alive suddenly makes them feel nothing at all. And now they're back where they started, only worse. Because now, not only are they empty, but they're confused. Why doesn't this work anymore? Why do I still feel like something's missing? Because something is missing, and it always has been. They think they're fixing the problem, but they're just covering up the symptoms. Like painting over a crack in the wall and pretending the foundation isn't crumbling underneath. And the world? Oh, the world loves it that way. Because as long as they keep looking for answers in all the wrong places, they'll stay trapped in the cycle. They'll keep buying, keep chasing, keep running, and the ones who profit from their desperation, they'll keep smiling. Because that's the game. Keep them searching, keep them needing, keep them blind to the one answer that actually matters. It's not a secret. It's not some hidden truth buried deep in ancient scrolls. It's right there. Has been from the start, but they don't want to see it. Because seeing it means admitting they've been wrong. It means admitting that all the things they've poured their time, their energy, their lives into were never the answer. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So they keep playing the game, pretending it's working, convincing themselves that the next thing will be the thing that finally makes them feel whole. But deep down, they know. They know because late at night, when the noise fades and the distractions wear off, the emptiness is still there. Sitting in the dark, whispering, reminding them of everything they're trying to ignore. And it doesn't matter how much they run, how much they chase, how much they try to drown it out. It waits, patient, unmoving, because the truth doesn't need to chase them. It knows they'll come looking eventually, and when they do, that's when they realize. The answers were never in the things they could buy, or the people they could impress, or the successes they could stack up like trophies. The answers were always in the one place they refused to look, the one place they avoided, ignored, dismissed, and when they finally get tired of running, tired of chasing, tired of pretending, they'll see what they should have seen from the start. that the world never had what they were looking for. It only had distractions dressed up as solutions. People, oh, people, so predictable, so fragile, so desperate to believe that someone, anyone, will always be there for them. They put their faith in friends, family, lovers, mentors, thinking, this one won't leave, this one won't change, this one is different. But the punchline, everyone changes, everyone leaves. Sooner or later, one way or another, they all go. Some walk away when things get hard. Some disappear when you need them most. Some smile to your face and sharpen the knife for your back. And yet, people keep trusting, keep hoping, keep setting themselves up for the same disappointment over and over again. They love the idea of reliability. The thought that if they give their heart to someone, if they share their secrets, if they build a life around another person, that person will always be there. But people aren't built for that kind of responsibility. They're messy, they're selfish, they're human. One day they care, the next they don't. One day they're your rock, the next they're the storm that drowns you. And yet, every time, people act surprised. How could they do this to me? I thought they were different. I never expected this. Oh, but they should have. 'Cause that's just what people do. Maybe they don't mean to. Maybe they promise with the best intentions. I'll always be here for you. I'll never let you down. You can count on me. But promises are just words. And words? Oh, words are cheap. They're easy to say in the good times, when nothing's being tested. But when the fire starts, when the pressure builds, when life stops being so convenient, that's when you see what people are really made of. And most of the time, they're made of excuses. They'll tell you they didn't mean to hurt you, that it wasn't their fault, that circumstances changed, that they had to go, that they had to put themselves first. And maybe they believe that. Maybe they tell themselves they had no choice. But the truth is that people will always do what's best for them, not for you, not for anyone else. They'll pick the easy road when things get hard. They'll save themselves, even if it means leaving you to drown. And when it's all over, they'll expect you to understand, maybe even forgive. The funny thing is, people still don't learn. They get burned, they get abandoned, they get betrayed, and then they go right back to trusting again. Like a gambler thinking the next hand will be different. Like a fool convincing themselves that this time it'll work out. But it never does. Because people don't change, not in the way you hope. They'll always put themselves first. They'll always leave when it's easier than staying. And no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you give, it's never enough to keep them from walking away. But here's the part that stings the most. It's not just the ones you expect. It's not just the acquaintances, the fair-weather friends, the ones you always had a feeling might turn their back when things got rough. No, it's the ones you never saw coming, the ones who swore up and down they were different, the ones who made you believe, who made you let your guard down, who made you think, maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. And when they leave, oh, that's when it really hurts. Because it's not just about losing them. It's about losing the illusion. It's about realizing that nobody is as solid as they seem. And yet people keep looking for something permanent in a world full of temporary things. They keep expecting flesh and blood to be as reliable as stone. But people, they're made of glass. They crack, they shatter, They disappear the moment you think they're strong enough to hold you. And the ones who don't, they're just waiting for the right moment, the right excuse, the right reason to prove that in the end, they're just like all the others. Because when it really comes down to it, when the choice is between you and them, there's only ever been one answer. People love noise. They love chaos, distractions, anything that keeps them from sitting alone with their thoughts. The second it gets too quiet, the second there's even a moment of stillness, they reach for something. Music, a phone, a conversation, anything to fill the space. Because silence? Oh, silence is dangerous. Silence makes them think. And thinking, that's the last thing they want to do. Because when you strip away all the noise, when you sit in the quiet, when there's nothing left but you and your thoughts, that's when the real questions start creeping in. The ones they spend their whole lives running from. They ask everyone else for answers before they even consider talking to the one who actually has them. They go to their friends, their family, their social media feeds, looking for validation, for someone to tell them what to do, what to think, how to feel. They take advice from people just as lost as they are, just as broken, just as clueless. And why? Because it's easier. It's easier to get a quick response, a comforting lie, a temporary fix, than to sit in the quiet and actually wait for the truth. People hate waiting. They want instant results, instant clarity, instant relief. But God, He doesn't work on their schedule. He doesn't answer just because they demand it. He doesn't cater to their impatience. And that drives them insane. They don't want a conversation. They want a vending machine. Put in a prayer, get out a solution. But that's not how it works. That's never how it worked. So instead of waiting, they keep running. They fill their time with distractions, with noise, with nonsense. They keep their minds so busy, so cluttered, so overloaded, that they never have to sit with the silence long enough to actually hear anything. And then they say, God never answers me. Oh, but He does. They just weren't listening. They were too busy talking, too busy complaining, too busy filling the space with their own voices to ever hear His. They want Him to speak, but they don't want to be still long enough to hear what He has to say. They want direction, but they don't want to slow down. They want peace, but they refuse to step away from the things causing the chaos in the first place. They want the benefits without the discipline, the answers without the patience, the wisdom without the effort. They want it their way, on their time, and when it doesn't work like that, they convince themselves He isn't listening. But the truth is He speaks in the silence. Not in the noise, not in the distractions, not in the rush of everyday life, in the quiet, in the moments where everything else fades away and there's nothing left but stillness. That's where the answers are. That's where the clarity comes. That's where they finally realize that all the running, all the searching, all the chasing was never necessary. That everything they needed was there all along, waiting for them to slow down and listen. But they won't. Most of them never will. Because silence is uncomfortable. It's unsettling. It forces them to confront things they don't want to face, their fears, their regrets, their doubts. It's easier to keep moving, to keep searching, to keep drowning in distractions than to sit alone in the quiet and let the truth sink in. Because deep down, they already know the answers, they just don't want to hear them. So they'll keep running, keep filling the silence, keep pretending they're looking for something when really they're just hiding from it. They'll convince themselves they're too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed to stop and listen, and when they don't hear anything, they'll blame him instead of admitting they were never really listening in the first place. People love opinions. They collect them like souvenirs, like little trinkets they can carry around, show off, compare. They ask one person, then another, hoping someone will tell them exactly what they want to hear. And when they don't, oh well, they just keep asking, keep searching, keep digging until they find the answer that makes them feel good. 'Cause that's what they really want, not the truth, just something that sounds nice. Something easy, something comfortable. They go to their friends, their family, their coworkers, strangers on the internet, anyone who will throw an opinion their way. What do you think I should do? Do you think I made the right choice? Would you do this if you were me? As if these people know any better, as if they have it all figured out. But here's the thing, they don't. Nobody does. They're just as lost, just as confused, just as uncertain. But that doesn't stop them from talking, from advising, from handing out wisdom like they've got some special insight. And people listen. Oh, they listen. Because it's easier to trust a voice they can see than one they can't. They put their faith in human opinions over divine wisdom, and then they wonder why their lives are a mess. They take direction from people who can't even find their own way, and then they're shocked when it leads them nowhere. But they never stop to question it. Never stop to ask why they trust these people in the first place. Maybe it's because they don't actually want answers. They just want approval. They just want someone to tell them that whatever they were already planning to do is the right thing, that they're smart, that they're justified, that they're in control. And the world? Oh, the world is full of voices, full of people more than happy to tell them exactly what they want to hear. Follow your heart. Do what makes you happy. Trust yourself. But the heart is fickle. Happiness is temporary. And trusting yourself? Well, how's that been working out so far? They've trusted themselves before, made decisions based on their own feelings, their own wants, their own understanding. And how many times has that ended in regret? How many times have they looked back and thought, if only I had known? But they could have known. They just didn't ask the right person. Instead of turning to the one who actually knows the future, who actually sees the full picture, they turn to people just as blind as they are. And they keep doing it, over and over again. They ignore the still, quiet voice that actually has the answers and drown it out with the noise of opinions that lead them nowhere. They want wisdom, but they don't want to seek it. They want clarity, but they don't want to listen. Because real wisdom isn't always easy. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it tells them to wait when they want to move. Sometimes it tells them to walk away when they want to stay. Sometimes it tells them they're wrong when they're desperate to be right. They want validation. So they keep chasing voices that will tell them what they want to hear, keep surrounding themselves with people who think like them, talk like them, agree with them, keep convincing themselves that if enough people say something, it must be true. But truth isn't a popularity contest. It doesn't change just because more people believe a lie. And by the time they realize they've been listening to the wrong voices, it's already too late. The damage is done. The wrong turn has been taken. The consequences are real. And when everything falls apart, when the advice they followed turns to dust, when the voices that once seemed so certain suddenly have nothing to say, that's when they finally ask the question they should have asked in the first place. But by then, They're not looking for opinions anymore. They're looking for truth. And truth was never in the noise. It was always in the silence, always in the place they ignored, always in the one voice they refused to hear. You people think they have time. That's the great illusion, isn't it? They wake up, they go about their day, they make their little plans, and they tell themselves, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow they'll start changing. Tomorrow they'll make things right. Tomorrow they'll finally listen, finally pay attention. But tomorrow isn't real. It's just a story they tell themselves to feel better about wasting today. They act like time is something they own, something they control. They act like they have an unlimited supply, like they can spend it however they want and there'll always be more. But time doesn't belong to them. It never did. It ticks forward second by second without their permission, without their control. They don't get to pause it, rewind it, ask for a little extra when they need it most. They don't even know how much of it they have left. And yet, they act like it's guaranteed, like they'll always have another chance, like they can afford to waste the moment they're in because the next one will always be there. They put things off, important things. Things that matter. They tell themselves, I'll get serious about my faith later. I'll have that hard conversation another day. I'll fix things with that person when I have time. But later never comes, not the way they think, because the clock doesn't wait. And one day they wake up and realize they missed it. The chance is gone, the moment is over, and now all they have left is regret. Regret. Oh, that's the real punchline. The thing nobody talks about until it's too late. 'Cause once time is gone, once the door is closed, once the chance has slipped through their fingers, all they can do is sit in it. Sit in the what-ifs, the if-onlys, the I should have dones. And that is a kind of pain that no distraction can fix. No money can buy back, no amount of begging can undo. It stays with them, sits heavy on their chest, whispers to them when they try to sleep, because they knew. Deep down they always knew they were wasting time. They just thought they had more of it. They watch other people run out of time. They go to funerals, they see the news, they hear the stories. And for a second, just a second, they feel it. That cold, creeping realization that one day, that'll be them. One day, their name will be the one people whisper about. One day, their time will be up. But then they shake it off. They distract themselves. They convince themselves it's far away, that it won't happen to them, not now, not anytime soon. And just like that, they go right back to wasting the little time they actually have. They don't ask the right questions. Instead of asking, what am I supposed to do with the time I have? They ask, how much time do I have left? They want to know the number, the deadline, the expiration. But that's not the question that matters. The question that matters is, what am I doing with this second right now? Because this second, this breath, this moment, it's the only one they know they have. The rest is just a gamble. They put their trust in everything but the one thing that actually lasts. They build their lives around temporary things, things that can be lost, things that can be taken, things that don't follow them past the last breath they take. And then, when it all disappears, when the time runs out, when the final second ticks away, they're left empty-handed. They spent all their time chasing what they thought mattered, only to realize too late, that they never even touched what actually did. And the irony? The irony is that the answers were right there, always were. The truth was waiting, the voice was speaking, the door was open, but they ignored it. They were too busy, too distracted, too convinced they had all the time in the world. And by the time they finally stopped, finally looked, finally listened, the only thing staring back at them was the one thing they were never ready to face. The fact that time was never on their side. It was always running out. And now it's gone.